I've used a lot of meal services, but Hungry Root truly stands out because it's built around the way real families live and eat. They don't just send meal kits. They personalize your grocery cart and meal plan based on your preferences and dietary goals. All I had to do was take a short quiz, and right away, their smart cart technology started building a cart that fit how we eat. Now, each week feels easier, like someone else is doing the thinking for me. I've been focused on cleaner eating lately, and I love that Hungry Root keeps out over 200 additives, including things like high fructose corn syrup and artificial sweeteners. Their meats are hormone and antibiotic free, and the produce options include organic and non GMO picks. They also stock brands I already trust, like Oatly, Vital Farms, and Harmless Harvest. One of our favorite meals has been the teriyaki salmon with green beans, light, flavorful, and done in 12 minutes flat. Plus, I've noticed we waste less food, spend less time shopping, and even save money by skipping those impulse grocery buys. Take advantage of this exclusive offer. For a limited time, get 40% off your first box, plus get a free item in every box for life. Go to hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg and use code Dr. Meg. That's hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg to get 40% off your first box and a free item of your choice for life. hungryroot.com/Dr. Meg. Code Dr. Meg.
On today's episode of Parenting Great Kids.
Did you know that up to 50% of children experience sleep problems at some point during their development?
She's concerned that you're no longer doing the things you were doing initially. They usually wake up crying. You have to come in and do all the things you did to get them back to sleep in the first place. That's why the struggle is occurring.
Welcome to Parenting Great Kids. Here's your host, Dr. Meg Meeker.
Well, sleep is essential for a child's growth, cognitive development, and emotional well-being. Yet many parents facing these challenges often find themselves navigating the issue alone. I did when my kids are little, and I do now with my grandkids spending the night. Well, today I'm joined by Dana Obleman, founder of the Sleep Sense program, a trusted resource that has helped over 100,000 families worldwide teach their children independent sleep skills. Dana, thanks so much for coming to my show. So many parents struggle with sleep and their infant kids, I'd say really up to a year old. Talk to parents about the importance of infant sleep and if their kids aren't sleeping, what they can do about it.
Yeah, I think every parent at some point in the parenting journey wonders why isn't their baby sleeping better, or when will their baby eventually sleep better? I think the missing piece for a lot of parents is that a child really does need to learn how to sleep independently. And so if they're constantly being rocked to sleep or bottle fed to sleep or held to sleep, then what happens is when they have little wake ups in the night, which is very common and normal, they'll need assistance again to get themselves back to sleep. So it's kind of like, how do we teach a baby to handle some of these episodes in the night when they wake up a little more independently so that they can slide right into another sleep cycle, start consolidating larger pieces of nighttime sleep, which they'll do better, their parents are going to do better, but most people just really don't know how to do that.
I agree. Now, let's talk specifically about a baby, a couple of babies. I'll give you some situations and you can respond to them. So I'm a new mother coming in, and my 4-month-old wakes up every hour during the night. And when I try to console her, rub her back, put her passy in, she's quiet. I leave the room and she screams again. And this happens every hour during the night. What should I do?
Whew, you must be exhausted. Well, it's tricky because at the 4-month mark, there is a biological change in sleep. It's commonly referred to as the 4-month sleep regression. So, in the newborn phase, babies really just have two stages of sleep. They're either in deep sleep or they're in REM sleep. And then around 3.5 to 4 months of life, their sleep cycles become more like an adult's, where we cycle through 2 stages of light sleep before we do deep sleep, and then we do REM. And some babies get a little stuck. They get that their body has a little bit of a challenge getting to that full sleep cycle. So that can cause some sort of natural regression with sleep. But every hour, I don't think that's the 4-month sleep regression. I think that that's more a sleep prop association. So I always start at bedtime. That's where all the answers lie. And I'll ask that mom to describe to me the half hour that leads up to bedtime. What is she doing? What is the baby doing? Most of the time, it's I feed the baby until she's asleep, and then I transfer her to the crib, or I hold her until she's in deep sleep, and then I try to transfer her to the crib. And then the problem occurs every hour when a baby reaches the end of a sleep cycle and you're no longer holding her or you're no longer nursing her. She's concerned that you're no longer doing the things you were doing initially. They usually wake up crying. You have to come in and do all the things you did to get them back to sleep in the first place. And that's why the struggle is occurring.
So let's say the same 4-month-old mom gives him a bath, they quiet down. She rocks him in his room, plays soft music, and puts him to bed awake. But baby screams and will scream for maybe 10 minutes. And mom just has a really hard time listening to that screaming. What should she do? Should she go get the baby? Should she rub him? I mean, you don't want her to feed him. What should she do?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's a few ways to approach it, and every baby responds differently, so it's hard to give sort of a one size fits all approach to that. But I would start by just staying. Have her, bring in a chair to sit by the crib. Try to offer some comfort with touch. Maybe give the mattress a little bit of a bounce to see if some motion can help. Do some, patting. I call it careful touch, and see if there's a way to just help minimize the upset on the baby's part.
Mhm.
The good news is that as a baby learns how to get themselves into the beginning of sleep, then that becomes a skill set that they'll rely on night after night, and the crying will eventually become nothing because they know exactly what to do. So it's like learning any new skill. If you're teaching a child anything, you're not expecting perfection on the first try. So you're there to be a support, encouragement, reassurance. But the actual act of learning to fall asleep without a lot of extra help is the baby's to learn.
Mm.
So how can we sort of minimize the distress while the baby learns, but also still encourage learning? I mean, that's kind of a balancing act that every parent has to walk through.
Is there ever a time when parents should, in a situation like that, pick the baby up, rock him, comfort him, and put him back in awake, or should they just keep the baby in the crib?
I find that method works really great with really little ones. So I would say the newborn to about the 3-month mark. I think it was Tracy Hogg who coined the term pick up and put down. And that's kind of the method where you do a little bit of, uh, rocking and help, and then you put them down before they're asleep. And then you keep repeating that until eventually they fall asleep in the crib or bassinet. But I do find around the 4-month mark that is less effective because the baby has some expectations.
Mhm.
They know what is the best path to sleep. They know that I just need to breastfeed, or I just need you to rock me for 5 minutes and I can get back into sleep again. And so if you just pick them up and don't do what they're expecting, they'll often cry all the harder when you put them back down again.
Mhm. Let's talk about a 9-month-old. Now you have a 9-month-old who's sleeping, 2 naps a day, an hour and a half each. You put the baby to bed at 7:30, 8 o'clock, and he goes to sleep well. Then he wakes up at 1 in the morning, and then at 3 in the morning, and then at 5 in the morning, crying, crying, crying. And just if mom goes in and rubs him on the back, he just keeps on crying. What do you do in a situation where the baby he goes to bed awake, but he's waking up 2 or 3 times in the night? Because I find this is pretty common and parents are just exhausted.
Mhm. Yeah. So this is a baby that's falling asleep independently at bedtime? That's correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So that's you're right, that is common. So that's a great start. That's like you're 80% of the way. If you can get a baby to fall asleep independently at bedtime, pat yourself on the back. If they're still waking up in the night, it usually means they're doing what I call habitual nighttime eating. So if they're going to be offered a feed, they're going to have a feed. And so they have a skill set that they use at bedtime, but then they have another skill set that they use in the night. And that skill set is the feed me to sleep skill set. So then the two worlds kind of live separately. I know what to do here, but I don't know what to do here. And the good news is that if you stop the nighttime feeds and at 9 months, unless there's something, fishy going on with weight gain or some other medical issue occurring, I'm confident to say that a 9-month-old can make it through the night without any calories. So I would suggest just pulling the nighttime feeds, going in, either staying in the room until the baby's back to sleep or doing a leave and check style method where you're coming in and out every 5 or 10 minutes. And they should be able to get themselves back to sleep without that intervention. And because they already have the skill set at the beginning of the night, I find that this only takes about 3 or 4 nights. It's relatively quick. It's a transferring of the skill set to these middle of the night wakings.
That makes a lot of sense. One of the things I find is that, because I tell him, look, if you have a 9-month-old and he feeds before he goes to bed, and he's healthy and big, 17, 18 pounds, 16, whatever, he really doesn't nutritionally need to sleep in the night. But a lot of kids get in the habit of waking up. But some parents say, okay, don't feed him in the night. And I go in and I rub his back, but he still won't go to sleep. He just screams and screams and screams until I come in there. Is it okay for kids to cry to go back to sleep? And if so, how long? What do you do with crying?
Yeah. Okay. So if the baby has great skills at bedtime, falling asleep totally independently, there's no more nighttime feedings or any sleep prop associations going on in the night, then they shouldn't be waking up to cry. So if they are, what's happening? And that would be my next question would be like, what are you doing? Are you helping too much? Are you holding him until he's almost asleep and then trying to put him back? Are you using a pacifier to reinsert? Are you, what kind of intervention are you doing that might be actually interfering with the transfer of that skill set to the middle of the night?
Mm-hmm.
So my suspicion would be something's a little fishy going on in the middle of the night. So I would want to investigate deeper what exactly mom's doing or dad's doing at that time. But yeah, I mean, crying is just a baby's way of saying like, I'm not sure what to do. I don't know. I'm used to a way we're doing something and now that way is no longer occurring. Let me tell you that I don't appreciate that way. I'd like your help getting back to sleep. It's the middle of the night. But I mean, the good news is that quickly babies can learn good sleep skills. I mean, in the big picture of life, a couple of nights is a blink of an eye, right? And if it means that this baby's going to sleep consolidatedly through the night, night after night, then it's worth it, in my opinion. It's worth it for the baby. It's worth it for the family's health and happiness. It's like the benefits of a baby sleeping well are,
Oh, huge.
endless. So,
Yeah. Some days, parenting feels like chasing moments that never quite land. You ask a question, they shrug. You try again, they look at their screen. And you wonder, why is this so hard? That's why I love FamGabs. It's a 70 card deck created by a child therapist who spent 16 years working directly with families, helping parents and kids break through the awkward one word answers and really connect. The questions are open ended, thoughtfully chosen, and designed to get your child talking and keep the conversation going. There are even bonus cards just for parents to help you build your confidence in your connection toolbox. If you've ever wished for a better way to understand your child or just to have more meaningful conversations as a family, FamGabs is such a gift. Search FamGabs on Amazon and use promo code Dr. Meg Pod during checkout to get 10% off your order. That's FAMGABS on Amazon. Use promo code Dr. Meg Pod and get 10% off your order. I've had so many parents say, Dr. Meg, my child is bright, but they're struggling in school and I don't know what to do. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And that's why I'm excited to share K-12 Powered Schools with you. K-12 offers tuition-free, accredited online public education for grades K through 12. These programs let kids learn at their own pace with built-in flexibility that supports different learning styles and family needs. And unlike homeschooling, K-12 provides certified teachers who guide your child's education online. The lessons are engaging, the technology is hands-on, and your child gets real opportunities to connect with clubs, extracurriculars, and even in-person events. As a mom, a grandmother, and a pediatrician, I know how powerful it is when education meets your child's needs instead of the other way around. So if you're looking for something different, something better, go to k12.com/Dr. Meg and find a tuition-free K-12 powered school near you. That's k12.com/DRMEG, all caps.
I can usually find the place in which a parent's making a few missteps, but so there's more pieces to the puzzle than just simply saying, let a baby cry. Because if they're crying night after night after night after night with no improvement, something's going wrong.
Mm. What about, one of the patterns I commonly see, or say that 9-month-old sleeping well, wakes up at 1 a.m. Mom and dad have to go back to sleep, say feed him. Then he wakes up at 5 a.m. and they feed him again. How does a parent drop that 1 a.m. feed? Because I found if parents, even if they go in and they don't feed the baby, his stomach grumbles because you've developed a pattern and a pattern of expectation, the baby. How do they stop that 1 a.m. feeding? Because it does seem like they can go in and rub his back, but you've got a mad kid who wants to eat. So if he's crying hard, what do they do, even if they're sitting by his crib?
I mean, ultimately, they're just waiting it out. They're saying a key phrase or doing some careful touch. They're either floating in and out of the room or they're staying present. And they're just rotting it out until the baby goes back to sleep without that feed. I mean, I'm sure if you think about it from, our own perspective, I've woken up some nights and felt my stomach growling a little bit. Maybe I didn't eat enough dinner or whatever the case was, but I can still get back to sleep. Like a baby can do it.
It's established pattern. They've been eating at 1 a.m. for months and months. And then mom said, he doesn't need it. I'm going to drop that feed. And she'll say, I can go in there and sit by his crib, but I might be in there for an hour and he's fussing and crying and fussing and crying because he wants his food. Is it okay if you're sitting by the crib for him to just fuss and cry and fuss and cry?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay.
It is. It is. In my opinion, I mean, I'm sure there's people who disagree with me, but I think it's fine because you're right. He doesn't need the calories. It's just a habit he's in. It won't end until mom decides it's time to end it. And again, the good news is this is only going to take a couple of nights.
Right. Well, that's pretty much what I encourage parents to. But what I find is most parents can endure maybe 5 minutes of crying and then they're done. And then they run in and they feed them, they put a passy in, they whatever, and try to tell them, you are changing a pattern here, and changing a pattern in children takes time. It just doesn't happen the first night. And, particularly if you have an older child who's very stubborn, they want that food, they want it, and they're going to sort of throw a temper tantrum. Let's move on and talk about screen time and preschoolers. We know that screen time and screen time can have a dramatic impact on sleep quality and the amount of sleep that a child gets. We know that if children if they don't get enough sleep, their sleep quality goes down. They can have poor attention. They can have hyperactivity during the day, irritability. So talk about how you coach a parent of a 3-year-old regarding sleep and healthy sleep hygiene.
Mhm. Yeah, that's a great that's near and dear to my heart. And I think it applies not just to 3-year-olds, but all of us. Yeah, my recommendation is to start with 1 hour before bed screen free. Uh, some kids need a little more time. Melatonin kind of builds over time, and so sometimes an hour is not quite enough, so you might have to back it up. But an hour is a good place to start. And, instead do things like have a bath, get your jammies on, read stories together, talk about the day, and then lights out. And having consistency there with like lights are out by 7:30, screen times. We used to have a rule with our kids: there's no TV after dinner. So we're finding other activities to do that don't involve any kind of screen. You can start like turning the lights down, closing curtains, just kind of help build that natural melatonin that's so useful for getting little ones to sleep and sleep through the night. And 3-year-olds love predictability, having a very predictable bedtime routine that's step by step, nothing kind of random in it. It's just like bath, into my jammies, brush my teeth, have 2 stories, kisses goodnight, and then into the bed for the night. It just really helps get the body and brain in line with the transition into night. We all have routines we do before bed, and it's not just a matter of like physical hygiene, it's also mental hygiene, like giving our brain time to adjust to the idea of transitioning into our nighttime sleep is really important for all of us.
It is important. Talk about, you mentioned melatonin, and I have a number of patients who, ask about giving melatonin to their kids to help them sleep. Will you talk about the role of melatonin and what melatonin is?
Yeah, I mean, melatonin is a naturally occurring hormone that everyone produces and it's very much connected to light source. So if you think back before the invention of the light bulb, our bodies worked so beautifully then because the sun went down. And as the sun gradually went down and the sky got darker and darker, our melatonin would sort of softly build over 3 or 4 hours of evening. And then by, 9 o'clock, you're feeling sleepy, ready for the night. And melatonin, it's not just as simple as popping a pill before bed. That's where I get a little frustrated because um I don't think it's not a solution, and it's not a long-term solution. And so if you haven't given your body enough time to build melatonin, y- taking a pill might help you fall asleep, but it's not going to be enough to get you through the entire night. And it has side effects. It absolutely does, and we don't actually know um the long-term repercussions of giving it to children. It's just not been around long enough to really see where it could. There is some chatter that it could cause um, I read an article that said there's some suspicion that it might cause epilepsy in children who are predisposed to that. It might bring on puberty earlier than it should. So, it's just something that is not necessary. If you just do a few things to organically get melatonin working for you, you don't have to take those things.
Mm-hmm. Talk about light and exposure to light with kids and sleep, because I have told parents over and over and over, please, no phones or screens in the bedroom, no screens in the bedroom, no iPad in the bedroom. And, I've often said there's the light can also, not just the stimulation from a show, or even if it's a kid show, a lot of kid shows or even toddler shows are very loud. They have a lot of fast action, a lot of moving things. They're not quiet. They're not Mr. Rogers anymore. So in addition to the mental stimulation, talk about the physical stimulation of the light and how that affects kids, particularly toddlers, before bedtime.
Oh, there couldn't be anything worse. There really couldn't. I mean, I agree with you. It's a lot of mental stimulation as well. Even if they're sitting there quietly and watching it, that's not winding down. That's like the brain is on high alert now because of you're right, the action and the colors and the noise. But the light, especially an iPad, it's here. It's right in front of you and it's blasting. Even if you turn it to the night setting, that helps a little bit, but it doesn't do much. It's just the blue light from that screen is just pouring right into the eyes. It's blocking the melatonin. It's absolutely going to have an effect on the quality. The ability for the child to fall asleep and stay asleep is affected dramatically by that screen. It's just, a lot of people tell me, oh, I fall asleep while I'm watching it, or I fall asleep to the TV. And what I hear is, oh, they only fall asleep while they're watching the iPad or iPad. And I say, well, at what time? And they're telling me 10, midnight, 2:00 in the morning. Somebody was just telling me their 3-year-old is up till 2:00 in the morning watching her iPad. Okay, so she's falling asleep to the iPad with pure exhaustion. Like pure exhaustion is overriding the body at that point. That's not a good night's sleep. So if we got rid of it and had sort of an hour to wind down and do some activities together and get the body and brain in line with bedtime, she would be asleep by 7:30 and sleep a proper solid 11 to 12 hours through the night. So
And be a very happy kid the next day.
Exactly.
Instead of sort of being back talking and being kind of a pill.
Yeah.
Okay, on to teenagers. I can't tell you the number of teenagers I see who say to me, I go to bed at 10, but I don't fall asleep till midnight or 1:00, or they can fall asleep early, but they wake up at 2 in the morning and then they just can't go back to sleep. And this has been going on for months and they're exhausted. So what do you tell that 16-year-old who just can't get themselves to sleep? And you've done the pretty good sleep hygiene. They don't have their phone in there. They're not on social media. What can you say to teenagers to help them fall asleep and stay asleep?
Oh, my heart goes out to the teenager. It really does. And society is not in line with their biology. And so, when a child hits the teen years, there is a biological shift in their circadian rhythm, and it bumps down about 3 hours. So for you and I, maybe we get up at 6 or 7 in the morning and we feel pretty good. When a teenager has to get up at 6 or 7 in the morning, that's like essentially saying they're up at 4:00 in the morning. Like if you had to get up at 4:00 in the morning, there would be repercussions to that. So one of my goals has always been, let's try to get high school start times later. Let's get college start times later. Let's try to help these poor kids. It's not their fault. It's not their fault. It's biology. And so, but again, they have to make do with what is, the norms of society at the moment. And so the best thing to do is similar, like give your body an hour to wind down, do some things, maybe listen to, a meditation, have a bath, a shower. Epsom salt in your bath can just kind of help give you a little magnesium wind down, get the body calmed down. And give yourself that space to kind of get in the right headset for going to bed. That'll help. Sticking to a schedule, and this is hard. I mean, if they have to go to bed at 10 o'clock to try to get, 8 hours of sleep for school, they should try to do that same thing on the weekends as well. Our body clocks work best with consistency. When we go to bed, when we wake up, should be the same every night, give or take an hour. But again, a lot of teenagers fight back on that, where they're going to bed earlier for school days, but then on weekends they're up till 3 o'clock in the morning, and that's just not the best way to honor your body clock.
One of the issues I have found can really impact sleep is overscheduling, and I see a lot of teenagers who will school ends, they grab a snack, they go off to practice, and then they come home at 8 o'clock at night, and then they have a quick dinner, and then they have to start their homework. And homework may take 2 or 3 hours. So is the stimulation from homework or from physical activity like sports, does that impact their sleep? I mean, should they be able to go from doing homework to falling asleep in 15 minutes?
No, nobody could do that.
Yeah.
I mean, if I tried to work leading right up to my bedtime, I'm like, I'm not gonna fall asleep, and I'm not gonna sleep well. So yeah, they need to give themselves, I would say, 30 minutes. If they can focus on 30 minutes, put the books away, give yourself 30 minutes to take a shower, do some stretching, maybe listen to a podcast even that's like not too, winding up, and read a book for a little bit, maybe write in their journals. Just give themselves a little bit of time to like decompress and come down from the busyness of the day. I get it. And another thing I see a lot of teens doing is drinking caffeinated drinks. So they'll be run ragged from their day. Now they have to go to practice, and now they have to come home and do homework. So on the way home, they grab a Red Bull or a huge a huge caffeinated thing from the gas station, and like it might help you get through that little period of time, but it's going to absolutely impact the rest of your night. Like caffeine in some people, it depends on how quickly your body metabolizes it, but caffeine for some people can last 8 to 10 hours. So if you're having a caffeinated drink at 7 o'clock, you're not going to sleep. You're not. There's just no way around it.
Right. We only have a few more minutes left, but a couple things I would like you to touch on. At different ages, parents ask me a lot, what are the sleep recommendations as far as the amount of time that those different groups need to sleep?
It's surprisingly, there's very little difference. There really is. Kids need a lot of sleep. Even into the teen years, even teenagers need 9 to 10 hours worth of nighttime sleep, and little ones need about 11 till 12. So I would say we're talking about babies, toddlers, and young school-age children. 11 to 12 hours should be your goal. As we get into sort of the adolescence, teen, we should be trying to preserve 10 hours for them. And if it's more like 9, that's okay too. But it's a lot of sleep. They need a lot of sleep.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's so hard because I think a lot of teenagers now are just sort of running on adrenaline all day. They have so much stuff, and they're thinking about so many things, and they're pressured, and there's just constant stimulation that's going to impact, trying to go to sleep as well. You said there's a study in August of 2024 that says that inadequate sleep in children can increase the likelihood of drug use in kids by age 15. What can parents do? Is that true? And then what can parents do to help prevent that, to decrease the child's risk of behavioral issues?
Yeah, I think as a parent, I think it's important to have a family meeting even about how can we make sure everybody's getting the best quality sleep that they can get. Can we all plug our phones in the kitchen at 9 o'clock? What are the routines we can do that lead us up to bedtime, and make it kind of like a family mission we're all going to sleep better, because adults are very naughty when it comes to their own sleep hygiene too. So getting everyone on board, we're going to make sure that we have the best sleep that we possibly can given the constraints. And that might help get, some positivity going. If it's a group effort, we're all going to do these things leading up to it. Trying to encourage kids, even on the weekend, to go to bed at an appropriate hour. And I get it. I've just been through the teen years with my kids, and it's tough to put those rules on them, and they push back a little bit about it. But, if it's for their greater good and for their health, not only drug use, but car accidents and impulse, like teenagers are not making the best decisions at the best of times. And then you add sleep deprivation on top of that. Now their decision-making skills are even more limited. And so it's just, sleep is such a foundation piece that it's just, if we can, it's already kind of a little uphill battle. Like, let's try to make it as easy as we can on them by making sure that they're at least getting 8 hours of sleep minimum.
Well, it's funny, as I hear you talking, I'm feeling guilty because this is what I do. And I think a lot of mothers do. You work during the day, or you're taking care of your kids during the day, and things start to wind down around 8 or 9, because I watch our grandkids a fair amount. And I think, what? I just need a few hours to myself. Yeah, I should go to bed at 9:30 or 10, but... And then all of a sudden it's midnight. And even that extra hour or two staying awake longer in the night can affect your mood the next day, can't it?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. It's common, though. It's actually got a name. It's called revenge bedtime.
And revenge for the parent? The parent's taking revenge?
I guess it's like revenge on the day. Like that thing, like where like, I need me time. And so you're in this battle of like, I should go to bed, but I also need me time. And so I'm in this like battle between, going to bed or staying up and watching the show or reading the book or having, that extra time. And it's usually at the sacrifice of your sleep. And so what I always like to say is, how can we back everything up?
Yeah.
So, for me, my kids were always in bed by 7 p.m. So that meant I didn't have to have revenge bedtime. I could do I do all the things until 10, and I had lots of time, so I felt good to go to bed.
Well, and I think revenge bedtime can be against husbands too. My husband and I'll spend time, and I'm like, okay, I just need to knit. So go away, please, even if it costs my sleep. But you're absolutely right, because even that extra hour and a half, I'm not as focused the next day. I'm more irritable. And I want to say to all the parents out there, your kids need you to be in a good mood during the day. It's one of the best things you can do. And if extra sleep or, fighting the revenge sleep is going to help you be in a better mood, that's one of the best things you can do for peace and harmony in your home and having people all get along. So I think, adults need to be careful as well. My guest has been Dana Obleman. She's the founder of the Sleep Sense program, a trusted resource for parents seeking practical, compassionate solutions to their children's sleep challenges, regardless how old the kids are. Dana, thanks so much for joining me. And where can people find you and your Sleep Sense program?
Yeah, they can find it on the website, which is sleepsense.net. And you can also find me on Instagram under SleepSense.
I'm very inspired to try to get my grandkids to sleep better here, because I do one of the biggest no-nos you can do probably is I let them sleep in my bed. So you don't even have to, address that one. That's